Hello, welcome to Brian360, and welcome to Why I Feed Birds, and maybe why you should too. I'm standing here in my backyard doing just that, waiting for some of the bravest birds, the black-capped chickadee, to come and take some food from my hand. While I ramble on and on in this video, I'll show you some images from my backyard bird feeders. First got the idea for this video a few days ago when I read an article online about a small town east of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, that has introduced new bylaws regarding bird feeders on private property. The City of Toronto has a similar bylaw. However, bird feeders are not prohibited, but there are regulations with respect to other animals being able to get the food, whether in the feeder or on the ground. The whole idea is to prevent mice, squirrels, chipmunks, raccoons, skunks, whatever, from eating the food that's left behind, being a nuisance, spreading disease, and I guess the big concern too is attracting other predators such as foxes and coyotes to residential areas. If you want to see a video on how to prevent squirrels from eating all of the seed in your bird feeder, I have a video on my channel that shows the setup that I have. After reading the article, I got to thinking, is what I'm doing a bad thing? I love wildlife and nature, but it's feeding birds in my backyard, along with squirrels, chipmunks, and rabbits, which I do intentionally, by giving them some peanuts or a bit of seed at the end of the day, and by having seed in my backyard, unintentionally feeding things like skunks and raccoons. Is that such a terrible thing? In some neighborhoods, it's common practice to leave your garbage can out for collection the night before. And that just provides a buffet for raccoons who will rip into your garbage can and have an awesome meal and make a terrible mess. This guy here visited my deck a few weeks ago during the day, which is an odd thing. He was looking for food, but unfortunately, he struck out. There are some pros and cons to feeding birds in your backyard. For an excellent video, please see Leslie the Bird Nerd's channel on this topic. However, while I have you here, please sit back and enjoy this video. I'll start with the cons first. There is definitely a financial cost to feeding birds, starting with purchasing a bird feeder, and in my case, building a structure that is squirrel-proof. As well, you have the ongoing cost of bird seed. You can mitigate some of these costs by building your own feeder or structure that I built, as well as purchasing food in bulk, at Costco for instance. I buy my black oil sunflower seeds and I buy my mixed seed in giant bags at Costco. There are specialty places that sell bird seed, but they are more expensive. As well, having bird feeders in your yard will make a bit of a mess, as birds are not the cleanest of eaters, and what goes in must come out. The coming out part is not really the big problem, but the scattered seed and discarded shells certainly make a mess on the lawn. There is also the added responsibility for ensuring the feeders are kept clean to minimize the possibility of disease transmission. And part of that responsibility involves paying attention to the media. During the summer last year, there was an article that mentioned an increase of the possibility of bird flu in several areas, including mine. So there was the recommendation to take your bird feeders down, which I did for 2 weeks until things seemed to clear up. If you notice in your own backyard that there are sick or several sick birds, then you need to take the feeders down for a bit, because when they congregate, that increases the chances of any disease spreading. As well, if you have a water bath, you need to clean that on a regular basis, because birds like to poop where they drink. As well, when it's minus 20 degrees outside and I'm nice and warm in my bed on a Saturday morning, I feel the need to venture out in the freezing wind and hang up those feeders for my cold and hungry friends who have just spent the night trying to survive. I have to take those feeders down at night as well, because while I have a squirrel-proof feeding structure, it is not raccoon-proof, which I found out the hard way a few times. From an ecological point of view, there can be some concerns as well. As long as you are providing nutritious food, feeding birds shouldn't be a problem. This is the point for all those people who still feed ducks stale bread at the local pond. I haven't been able to find any information on these next few ecological concerns, so if you're watching this and can provide a comment below, please do so. So, if I am feeding birds seed, especially in the winter when they might be hunting for insects in tree bark or in foliage on the ground, Will that mean that there will be a huge insect infestation come the spring? I don't think so. I feel that with giving birds food in the winter, there will be more who survive, so any extra insect will be eaten by the extra birds who have survived a brutal winter. This is that relationship between predator and prey, in which there is a natural balance that occurs. If there are many predators in an area relative to the prey to support them, then the numbers of predators will decrease as they reproduce less, leave the area, or die due to malnutrition or disease as a result of lack of food. With this decrease in predators, the prey will rebound, and their numbers will increase. With the increase in prey numbers, the predators will rebound again and drive the prey numbers down in this unending cycle. Another ecological concern of mine is the dispersal of seed that occurs naturally when birds feed on local plants and trees. If birds can get their nutritional needs met in my backyard, then why would they go and eat from trees and plants in the area? I'm sure that they are not eating exclusively from my feeders, and this can be mitigated by not having feeders out all the time, especially during the summer. Even with the feeders out, I still see birds eating from the trees and plants in the area, thus fulfilling the duties of their ecological niche. For this reason, I'm not concerned that birds will become completely dependent on my feeders and will still forage for food on their own and disperse the seeds that they are supposed to in their lovely bird poop. My last ecological concern is for the predators who feed on the birds that I cater to in my backyard. I don't know if by providing convenient meals to the songbirds in my area, that makes it more difficult for the predators to find an unwitting bird who might be foraging for food in the woods. The flip side, of course, is that my bird feeders are providing a buffet for the pair of Cooper's hawks that I see in the trees beyond my backyard. I don't see the hawks very often, but I have found the remnants of 2 cardinals in my backyard over the past 3 years. I purposefully put the feeding structure close enough to the trees to aid the birds in case a quick escape is necessary, as you see in this video. I'm not sure what the answer to this concern is, so if you know, please leave me a comment. As for the pros of feeding birds, I certainly get a warm and fuzzy feeling knowing that I am helping out the birds in my area. We humans are the one species on the planet who are a threat to all of the other species. If I can help mitigate the destruction of habitat and available food by feeding some birds, then I am more than happy to do that. When we first moved into this house 3 years ago, the biggest attraction to me was the wooded area behind my backyard fence. The house was built in 1987, and before that, this entire area would have been a forest. I realized that we have to build houses, roads, shopping malls, schools, the list goes on. But every time we build, we have to destroy first. Over 30 years ago, and that sounds so painful to me, over 30 years ago, in my Introduction to Biology University course, we learned about fragmenting our natural resources. An ecologist who spent time counting the numbers of different species in wooded areas with respect to the idea of sustainable development came to speak to our class. I shall do my best to summarize his message. These days, whenever we are describing large areas, there's always a reference to a sports field or surface. So, for my American friends out there, given the Super Bowl just happened last weekend, imagine an NFL-sized football field. For my Canadian friends, myself included, imagine an NHL-sized hockey rink. And for the rest of the world, imagine a soccer or football pitch. Now, if these were forests on a much larger scale, of course, and you decided to construct a road. So for the football field, you're building that road on the 50-yard line, 55-yard line if you're in Canada and the CFL for some reason, or if you're on that NHL hockey rink, you are building a road going through center ice, or if you were on that football pitch going through the halfway line. And I had to look that up. I did not know that the halfway line was the thing at the center of a soccer or football pitch. You have now bisected these fields with your road. Whether you're going widthwise or lengthwise, it doesn't really matter for this purpose. The animals who once lived at the center where your road is now have had to move to either one side or the other. 2 half fields that have now been created are not equivalent to that one large field or ice surface. Imagine watching your favorite football team play on half the field, or your favorite hockey team playing on half the rink, or your favorite European football/soccer team playing on half the pitch. Doesn't work so well. And unfortunately, it doesn't work so well for our animal friends either, whether it's because of a road or because of a new housing subdivision. Fragmented habitat does not work. So if I can help mitigate this problem by putting out some seed for my feathered friends, I am more than happy to do it. Another benefit of backyard bird feeding is that my children see what I am doing. I have 2 teenagers, and I hope that when they see nerdy old dad going out to feed the birds, there is at least a small amount of appreciation for nature that is passed down to them. With the impact of climate change and things like building lots of houses, it will be our young people who will feel it more than my generation. So hopefully a greater appreciation for nature will instill a desire and the need to protect it. While the birds benefit from having food provided to them, we who provide the food also benefit. Birding can be a fun and enjoyable hobby, especially if you are in the early stages and you are learning about the birds in your area. It has never been an easier time to learn about birds, both with books, those are the things with pages, and online resources, especially videos on YouTube by such providers as Leslie the Bird Nerd and someone I've recently discovered, the Suburban Morrigan. I'll put links to both of their channels below. The app Merlin ID, which you can install on your phone, allows you to identify birds through description, photograph, or by recording their song. It's an amazing app and I highly recommend it, especially for people who are new to birdwatching. I'll also provide that link below. If there is reliable information from scientists telling me that feeding birds is not good for them or the environment, then I will definitely reconsider my position. There's an article on the Audubon Society website titled "When It's Okay or Not to Feed Birds," and they give several examples of both of those situations. For the birds in my area, and given the food that I am providing to them, setting them up in the backyard with my feeders seems to be an okay thing to do. Of course, if anything changes with respect to that, then it's my duty as a bird feeder to stop feeding the birds for their own sake. In closing, do I think it's a good idea to feed birds? Well, if you're watching the video still at this point, I'm probably preaching to the choir. But obviously I think it's a good idea. There are many benefits, and as long as we continue to destroy habitat, I think it is our moral duty to help out where we can. And if that means hanging up a bird feeder or 2 in my backyard and paying a little bit of money to do so, there are definitely worse things we can do. If you are new to the world of birds, I encourage you to do a little bit of research before you jump headfirst and start building squirrel-proof feeders in your backyard. There are lots of resources to learn from, both in libraries, those are the things with books, and online. Plenty of resources. Thank you very much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up or subscribe, sign up for notifications, share this video, and above all, enjoy the birds in your neighborhood. Thank you very much. Take care.